Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and we've got War 7 of Season 52 here. We're up against Salty, and I'm bringing White Tiger, Void and Chieulth. Starting off on Path 7 here against this Nick Fury, and I went into this a little wary because I wasn't sure how he was going to interact with the Shrug Off node. This node is whenever somebody shrugs off, they will gain a damage reflect, so I'm really hesitant about pushing him into second life with a debuff up. I also forget that I have Resonate on, and we go into the fight with Resonate, and that means it's going to make it pretty tough to push him into second life without a debuff. My specials will apply debuffs to him, the special 2 with the bleed, but also just because of the node, any special will also apply that heal block and armor break. So I kind of like back off a little bit here and try and combo him in without a debuff, hoping that Resonate doesn't proc. But as soon as one procs here, I just decide to throw my relic, see if the damage reflect pops up. It doesn't, so I pause for a second, medium, and then throw my L2. That does a bunch of damage. Look at that tick on the bleed. We bait out his L2, go back in with ours, and that's just so much overkill. White Tiger's damage is just ridiculous for War. She's so good with power backs. I wish I could find a way to use her for more fights than just the occasional Path and Serpent, but yeah, absolutely loving her. Onto this Absorbing Man. He's on a node where whenever I knock him down, it's going to apply an armor break, but since he's immune, he gains a bunch of charges. That means he's going to be refined an awful lot, and I have some safety with Void because he's pretty tanky, so if he takes a hit from the refined Uri, it won't be too bad. I've also got an equity and stuff like that helping me deal with the damage, and also I'm Incinerate immune, so if I did want to push him to L2 and he refined, I wouldn't have that risk. I'm going to be choosing when to knock him down with a heavy and take him out of the form. Usually it's when I can't get him back up to another bar of power, or just every so often for a little bit of safety, but I'm not going to do it every time because there's a cooldown and he's just going to be refined so much that I'm just kind of dealing with not parrying so much when he is refined. It also isn't the worst thing in the world if he did refine and then hit my block. Even if it crits, it's not going to kill a rank 3 Void, it's just going to be a bit annoying, so I'm not going to do it very often. But we take him out of the form again here, and you know, in control of the fight, we manage the tactic. I had the heal block up when his power gain triggered, but we're coming to the end of the fight here, and I just need to bait out one more L1, which I do, and then don't dex. So that was a 600 charge SB1 as well. So if that had crit, I don't know, it might have killed me. So probably a little lucky. I don't know. Yeah, here Absorbing Man has a really high crit damage, so it might have killed, but we survived, and that's what's important. Moving on to section 2, we've got this Werewolf by Night on Shock, Bleed, Hazard Shift. We're in Path 9 now. Using Chieulth, and it might seem like I won't have enough cleanse to deal with the debuffs, and you're right, but just look throughout this fight how little health I lose. I'm pretty much just going to ignore Hazard Shift. I'm accepting that I'm going to get debuffs on myself. I've taken this sort of fight enough to know that Chieulth is plenty tanky enough to deal with it, and I do a couple heavies to start off by building up some debuffs, getting some space, bait out this special one, and that's the last special he throws in this match. Spoiler alert, he just doesn't throw anymore. But watch out how many debuffs do build up on myself, but the combination of inequity from all the bleeds and the weakness from Resonate just means that they barely do anything to me. Like I said, I'm just ignoring it. I've not even gone for my L2 to reduce the amount they're applying to me. That is an option that you can go for, but yeah, Chieulth just handles it completely fine. I've taken this Werewolf on this path before. I've also taken it on the Shock Incinerate node, and same story there. Chieulth just manages the debuffs, the damage that the debuffs do, just fine. It's nice to have the Hulk synergy, and it's nice to have an Odin, but it's not necessary. Anyway, moving on to this Magneto on 9B. I've taken this before, I think I took it last war. Pretty similar strat. I've got a combat regen boost running, so it'll help me deal with some of the one eye open damage at the start of the fight. Yeah, it's not too bad. I've got my Odin, which means I can hit during the shock phase. And again, like, I know now that the bleeds don't do too much, but I'm not going to just ignore it like I would against a Wiccan. I do know that it's an issue. I can afford hitting him a little bit in the bleed phase if it helps. So tactic is nearly up here, and I've nearly got my heal block. So as this last debuff that I apply procs, I go for an intercept because I saw I had an opening. The heal block applies, the power gain applies, but I can counter the miss with that heal block. I'm going to be trying to intercept during the shock phase, and then either hitting into block or going back into my corner for the bleed phase. Last war I spoke about wall banking, and that's going to be something I do again here. You do have to be careful with Magneto. His light attack is very quick after his medium, so you have to really learn the timing. There I missed that I hadn't got my heal block up, and no pun intended, miss him. And now we got the heal block up, go for a wall bank, go for a little combo, bleed phase is back, so I'm just going to chill for a sec, step back into my special one, I believe, and yeah, this fight is completely under control. I'm not in any danger just yet, unless I ate probably like 5 or 10 combos. Void is just unbelievably tanky. We go for one last wall bank into Relic, and we had a lot of overkill available to us. Moving on, got another Photon on personal space regen. This is pretty much a staple of my war season at the moment. I've lost count. I mean, obviously I'm recording this after about war 10, and I haven't stopped taking this fight. Spoilers again. But I'm getting it down, and it's nice to be able to path myself with Void for it, rather than find space for a Mantis, because I'm bringing Void pretty much every war anyway. But we're doing the same as usual. Baiting 2 L1s from her, going for an L1 myself to knock her down, and then waiting out pure light, repeating probably once more, and then at that point looking for an opportunity to reverse her regen. I've had varied luck with whether I've been able to reverse regen a bunch or not. It really depends on kind of resonate procs, whether my heal block's up all the time, but it's really nice to be able to spot the opportunity and then just close out a fight, well, this fight, incredibly safely by just reversing healing. Photon's risk is pretty much entirely coming from hitting her, so if you can safely close out the fight without hitting her at all, it's really good. It's something that I'd really recommend learning, being comfortable against certain champions in the corner. In this case, it's useful to be able to just go back there, dex a heavy, close parry, and eventually reverse regen. So I've got Fear of the Void up now. I'm looking for the opportunity to start reversing. You've just got to kind of wait out your heal block, and I think this is where I start to think about it. I know that the heal block's up, but I also know that I'm a good ways away from my next one. So as soon as this one drops off, I've got a Fear of the Void, I've got a Petrify, and now I can just start reversing it. So one thing I like to do is try and get my close parries, but if she dashes back and dashes back in, I'll dex that medium and then parry, and that just alleviates a lot of the stress of having to figure out when she's going to hit you. It's a good way to get that parry in, and she just melted the rest of the way. In any case, moving on to this Serpent, and I've got this fight down now. This is probably one of my best attempts. So we're going for full combo, nullify that power gain into a heavy to remove the protection. I want to bait out a heavy, he doesn't go for it, and I don't get my crit, but we're early on in the fight, it wouldn't have done that much more damage anyway, so I'm not fussed. Going in for another L1, I'm just ignoring one I opened a little bit there, probably could have slowed my combo down a little bit in fairness, and now I'm just going to try and bait out this special. So we parry the first hit and the last hit, that reduces some of the incoming damage, and now I just need to get a heavy off, and I'm going to hold block, or bait out a special one, and then dex back, then back in, so I can get my crit up. Get the crit, big special 2, bait out a heavy, go back, another special 2. Now protection coming back, so I want to bait out a special 1 from him, and then I'm going to parry the last hit and go into a heavy. That's really useful for getting an opening. Now I'm going to hold block, and he throws an L1 into it. That's fine, I just needed a way to dash back and get my crit. I was happy for a heavy or a special from him, But we power steal a lot of his power in this death immunity phase. My bleed's cutting out the regen. I've got my relic, and we go into a full combo. The death immunity is pretty short. If it was a higher sig, I could have just gone into relic and into special. But yeah, that is, if you want kind of a template for doing that fight, that's probably the one I'd recommend. It went very well. White Tiger's very good. And now final fight of this war, rather, is this Wiccan on Hazard Shift Shock Bleed. So I've taken this before on 9B, and I think I've taken it before on this node. I'm going to be parrying a lot in order to allow myself space to apply my debuffs, and I'm going to be baiting L1 wherever possible from Wiccan. I don't really want him going to L2. I'm going to be healing from the neutralize, going to be healing from the shock, and as usual, I'm just completely ignoring the bleed. I don't care about it. I'm not going to be looking at which hazard shift is up. The bleeds don't do enough damage to be a risk. If anything, like with one, you're probably still net positive as long as you got that neutralize up. We miss time a little bit with the parries, don't quite parry enough, and my debuff gets shrugged and push him to L2. We also don't have the heal block up, or we didn't have the heal block up at the time, so just took it on block to be safe. Now I'm a little bit more under control. I've got the heal block up, I've got one of my petrifies through, the power gains up, but I've got my heal block, so I've got my miss counter. Very specifically baiting the special one here. Punishing obviously pauses the charge gain from the tactic as well, and I'm not going for 5-hit combos. I'm barely going for 2-hit combos sometimes. I'm just going back and parrying over and over again, or baiting a special over and over again. That's the way to take this fight safely. You'll also notice, because there's so much going on in this fight, like he's got 2 rows of icons, I don't know when the Conflictor's back, so every time I parry, I'm waiting just that split second to make sure my parry's landed. You don't want to just accidentally mistime Conflictor and then have a combo, which would not be fun. But this fight is completely under control now. I've got enough debuffs to control, got heal block back up, and Wiccan is nearly dead. We go for a relic and just let him tick out. But yeah, that was a fun war. Good stuff, and it's nice to bring Chilth back out again. She's my most used champion ever in war, so it's always nice when she gets to show her face, and she's very, very successful whenever she does. White Tiger was great as usual, Void great as usual. But with that said, I will catch you guys next time. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.